everybody, Caitlin here, and welcome back to Coaster Magic. So it has been a minute since I've filmed a video, but I'm finally back and ready to make lots more amazing and fun content for you guys. So Hershey Park has 14 amazing coasters, and a lot of enthusiasts actually think they might have one of the best lineups in the world. So today we are going to be breaking that lineup down, and we're going to be looking at some different categories and giving that category a score out of 10 for their lineup. So without further ado, let's get into the video. The first thing we are going to be looking at is the types of coasters that Hershey has. As I mentioned in the intro, Hershey has 14 fantastic coasters, and they have a large variety in their coasters. So first of all, they have two B&Ms. They just got Candymonium, which is their all-new B&M hypercoaster, and this thing really appeals to the GP. Just like their other B&M coaster, Great Bear, which is a very unique B&M invert. They have three Intamin coasters, Fahrenheit, which is a vertical lift coaster, Skyrush, which is a wing hypercoaster, and Stormrunner, which is an accelerator coaster. They have three wooden coasters, Comet, Lightning Racer, and Wildcat, and some other family coasters like Laugh Track, Trailblazer, Wow Mouse, Super Duper Looper, and Coco Cruiser. Lastly, they have Sidewinder, which is a Vekoma boomerang coaster. This is definitely a very strong lineup. They definitely have something for everyone to enjoy with their fun family coasters and their thrilling coasters for the enthusiasts to enjoy. I'm going to give them an 8.5 out of 10 for coaster types because while they have lots of different coaster types, there are a couple of other coasters they could add that could make their lineup even stronger. The next thing we are going to be looking at is prototypes. Hershey Park actually has multiple prototype coasters in their lineup. First off, they have Wildcat. Wildcat was the very first GCI coaster and it opened in 1996. Wildcat doesn't see a lot of downtime, but it is still definitely starting to show its age. It is very rough, and as I've mentioned in previous videos on the channel, a lot of people want to see Wildcat get a hyper treatment from RMC or GCI. I personally think GCI should do it because it was their very first coaster. The next prototype coaster they have, or at least for the East Coast, is Super Duper Looper. Super Duper Looper was the first looping coaster on the East Coast. Super Duper Looper was just down, unfortunately, for an entire season, which definitely had to do with COVID, but it also needed some maintenance because just like Wildcat, Super Duper Looper is an older coaster and it's definitely starting to show its age. The next prototype coaster that they have is Skyrush. Skyrush was the first Intamin winged hypercoaster. Skyrush does tend to see a good bit of downtime throughout each season. It isn't too old, it opened in 2012, but I honestly think the thing hurting Skyrush the most is its restraints. Everyone seems to get off Skyrush complaining about the restraints, but I personally don't find them to be nearly as bad as some people say they are. But still, a lot of people complain about them, so they are definitely a turnoff for the ride. The next prototype, or at least I'm going to count it as one, is Stormrunner. The reason I'm counting Stormrunner as a prototype coaster is because it was the first hydraulic launch coaster in the world to feature inversions, and it is the only coaster in the world to feature a flying snake dive. The next prototype coaster they have is Laugh Track. Laugh Track was the first indoor spinning globe coaster in the United States. The last prototype coaster they have is Lightning Racer. Lightning Racer was the first wooden racing dueling coaster in the United States. All of these prototype coasters that Hershey has definitely adds up to their lineup because when people ride them, they are experiencing the very first type of a potentially fantastic coaster model. And they get to experience how that specific coaster model started and how they have come with that specific model. And Hershey's prototypes don't really suffer from too much downtime. Most of the downtime with their prototypes last season was maintenance that couldn't be done because of the pandemic. I'm going to give them an 8.5 out of 10 for prototypes because some of their prototypes experienced a lot of downtime, but for the most part, their prototype coasters don't experience too much downtime and they are all fantastic rides. The next thing we're going to look at is how much each of their coasters can appeal to both the GP and the coaster enthusiasts. So first, let's look at the coasters that can appeal to both of these groups the most. So these coasters are going to be Candymonium, Great Bear, Fahrenheit, and Stormrunner. These are the coasters that aren't too intense, but they are still very strong coasters in the park's lineup, and these coasters also typically have the longest lines in the park. As I mentioned earlier, Candymonium is a B&M hyper, and B&M hypers really appeal to the GP because they aren't too intense and they give great floater airtime, which the GP absolutely loves. The same thing basically goes for the enthusiasts. Candymonium is also a very smooth coaster, which definitely makes it appeal to more people. Great Bear, Fahrenheit, and Stormrunner are the park's e-ticket attractions. These are the attractions that everyone wants to get on when they come to Hershey Park, for the GP and enthusiasts alike. Great Bear is a very unique B&M invert. It has that iconic roar that you hear as you walk through the hollow. It's not too rough and it isn't too intense. Fahrenheit is a very unique coaster with a vertical lift and beyond vertical drop and a Norwegian loop, which are very rare in the United States. It also has an amazing airtime hill at the end of the ride, and for such a small hill, it really gives you a good pop of airtime. Stormrunner is a hydraulic launch coaster, and as I mentioned earlier, it is the only coaster in the world to have a flying snake dive. While Stormrunner is a very short coaster, it is also a very sweet coaster that can appeal to everyone. The coasters that appeal more to the GP than the enthusiasts are Comet, Super Duper Leaper, Lightning Racer, and Laugh Track. Comet is Hershey Park's oldest standing coaster, and it is definitely a classic. While many enthusiasts enjoy Comet, it isn't a top-tier coaster for the enthusiasts for the most part. For the GP, however, Comet is a top-tier coaster because it isn't too intense and it actually gives some really good airtime. Comet is a great family coaster, which is why it really appeals to the GP. Just like Comet, Super Duper Looper is another classic coaster that is great for families and especially for younger kids. Lightning Racer is another great wooden coaster. It's great for families because it duels so younger kids can have fun racing their other family members or even their friends. Laugh Track is the indoor spinning globe coaster at the park. This always has one of the longest lines in the park, which makes sense because it can appeal to everyone in the family, and it also definitely is the best theme coaster in the park with its funhouse theme and the famous Laughing Sal. There is really only one coaster in the park that only appeals to the enthusiasts, and that coaster is Skyrush. Skyrush is the most intense coaster in the park, and once again, to most people, the restraints are a turnoff. But the main thing for the GP is the intensity. Most people in the GP don't want to ride a coaster as intense as Skyrush is, and this really shows in the wait times for Skyrush. However, many enthusiasts, myself included, absolutely love Skyrush. I'm going to give them a 9.5 out of 10 for how much their coasters can appeal to everyone, because almost all of their coasters appeal to both the GP and the coaster enthusiasts. The last thing we are going to look at is how much downtime the rest of the non-prototype coasters typically experience. These coasters are going to be Comet, Great Bear, Trailblazer, Sidewinder, and Coco Cruiser. From my experiences, none of these coasters really experience much downtime, if any downtime at all. Sidewinder is down a couple times this season, but that isn't really too bad when you compare it to some other coasters. I'm going to give them a 9 out of 10 for how much downtime their non-prototype coasters experience, because they don't experience much downtime for the most part. So how strong is Hershey Park's coaster lineup? The overall score for Hershey's coaster lineup is 8.8. I think this is definitely an appropriate overall score for the park. They have lots of unique coasters, a lot of top tier coasters, and some coasters that are more middle tier. They really only have 2 or 3 coasters that are more bottom tier attractions. So I think this is definitely an appropriate score for the park's coaster lineup. So that is how I think the coaster lineup at Hershey Park is scored. That is going to do it for today's video. Make sure to tell me in the comments how you think Hershey Park's coaster lineup should be scored. If you enjoyed watching this video, please make sure to like it, and also please subscribe. I really need help from you guys to help my channel grow. I'm going to wrap it up here, so thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Have a great day, everyone. Bye!